Welcome to EPG Pathshala Philosophy. I am Satchidananda Mishra, Professor in the Department of Philosophy and Religion, Banaras Hindu University. I am going to discuss this module, kinds of Vyāpti and Hetu in Buddhism and two kinds of Vyāpti in Jainism, and course is logic first, and the content writer is Kuntala Bhattacharya. So in this module we will be discussing the kinds of Vyāpti according to Buddhism and also according to Jainism. And we can see that in Buddhism, the logical theory of argument and refutation begins with the advent of the Sautrantic Yogacharya school, and this school is initiated by Acharya Dingnag, 5th century Common Era. And major work of Dingnag are Pramana Samuchaya. He wrote Pramana Samuchaya, and Acharya Dharmakirti wrote a commentarial work Pramana Vartik and also Pramana Vinishchaya, and his another writing is Nyaya Bindu, and it is a further abridgment. In this module we will be discussing some basic concepts of Buddhist logic following Nyaya Bindu of Dharmakirti and its commentaries, basically Nyaya Bindu Tika by Acharya Dharmottar, and we will look also some issues in Pramana Vartik and some other texts. To begin the point we are going to discuss, it would be in place to consider the kinds of inference. There are two kinds of inference, and one is known as Swarthanuman. This is the inference for oneself, and Pararthanuman, this is the inference for others. So Swarthanuman is such kind of process in which cognition of the inferential subject characterized by the probandum generated by a probans having the triple characteristics. It is said that Trirupa Linga Jnanam Anumanam. So here, if one has the cognition of Hetu, cognition of inferential subject, and cognition of probans endowed with this triple character, then there is the inferential process take place. And inference for others, this is the process when it is said that Trirupa Linga Jnanam Pararthanumanam, when the Hetu, the probans endowed with three characteristics is uttered, then the listener can infer it, and from listening those sentences one can infer, and this is also called Anuman, inference, but it is not Swarthanuman, it is Pararthanuman. So we can say that this is an inference in a secondary sense because it generates inferential cognition in the listener, in another person. So there are some classifications, some distinctions to this issue. These three characteristics of probans are presence in the inferential subject, and presence in similar instances, and absence in dissimilar instances. And these three are known as Paksha-sattva, Sapaksha-sattva and Vipaksha-sattva. Presence in Paksha, where one is inferring, and presence in Sapaksha, the places which are very similar to the place where one is inferring, there must be Hetu present, probans must be present also there. And third one is Vipaksha-sattva, non-presence, absence in the dissimilar instances. So these are three characteristics of probans, and if probans is characterized by, endowed with these three characteristics, then we are entitled to infer. In the same way, there are three kinds of probans, and these are called Swabhava, Karya and Anupalabdhi. So there is a Swabhava Hetu, another is Karya Hetu, and third one is Anupalabdhi Hetu. Swabhava means essence of the sadhya, essence of probandum, and effect is Karya. This is produced from that probandam, and non-apprehension, non-cognition, you can say, this is anupalabdhi. So there are three classifications and distinctions of this this process, inferential. So the basic issue with this Vyāpti, there is no Vyāpti word is used by earlier, it is not used earlier, and the term is used Swabhava Pratibandha. And the meaning of Swabhava Pratibandha is the ground for the three kinds of province. This is to say, the relation of existential dependence. This Swabhava Pratibandha, this is the relation of existential dependence. So from this relation of existential dependence, we are entitled to infer. And this relation implies that province is existentially dependent on the probandum, but the probandum is not existentially dependent upon province. So this dependence is one-sided dependence. This is not two-sided dependence. And if there were two-sided dependence, it wouldn't have been possible to accept it here. So this is one-sided dependence. And second point to note here, that this relation also implies that the province is invariably and necessarily related to the probandum. It is always related to the probandum. And because it is independent, it is existentially dependent upon probandum, so it must be invariably and necessarily related to the probandum. Thirdly, there is another point, that because of these two issues, these 2 points, this province is the indicator and the probandum is indicated. Therefore, it is said that between them there is another relation, gamya gamaka bhava. So province and probandum are such that knowledge of the province necessarily leads to the knowledge of probandum. So we can understand schematically that Swabhava Pratibandha is actually equivalent to Abhyabhichar or Avinabhava, and therefore there is Gamya Gamaka Bhava. Because there is Abhyabhichar, therefore there is Avinabhava, and therefore there must be Gamya Gamaka Bhava, indicator, indicatedness. Province is indicator and the probandum is indicated. So the question arises that when should there be existential dependence between the province and the probandum? Not everywhere it is possible, but if possible, then only we have to admit that this is a true case, sound case of inference. So according to Dharamkirti, the logical relation is built on an ontological foundation. He observes that a relation of existential dependence is possible in either of these two ways, by the relation of identity and by the causality. So if there is the relation of identity, this is to say, if province and probandum are identical in some way, then there will be Tadatmya, and if province is produced from probandum, then there will be a second relation, that is Tadutpatti. So Tadatmya and Tadutpatti, these are two issues, and the relation according to which the province has the probandum as its essence, this is called Tadatmya. So the example, very famous example is given. In this case, this example is repeated everywhere, that this is a tree as this is a Shinshapa. Here the province, namely the property of being Shinshapa, is essentially contained in the probandum, namely treeness, vrikshatva, because Shinshapa is essentially a tree. If it is a Shinshapa, it must be a tree, it cannot be anything else, because Shinshapa is a kind of tree. So in the idea of, in the concept of, in the nature of Shinshapa, being tree is included. Therefore it is called Tadatmya. So this is the essence of Shinshapa, that is, this is a tree. So secondly, Tadutpatti. A province may be caused by the probandum, and in that case the relation between the province and the probandum is that of causality. So here we can observe that example is very famous example, and which is given by Naiyayikas also, but not in this sense. Like the mountain is fiery because it is smoky. In mountain we are inferring fire and providing as province smoke. So smoke is here caused by fire. So here the hill has fire because it has smoke. So because it has smoke, when we are inferring, so because it has smoke means here smoke is gamak and fire is gamya, and smoke is caused by fire. So whatever is caused, taking that as hetu, taking that as province, we can infer the provendum. So provendum is the fire and the province is smoke. Okay, so because the smoke is caused by fire, therefore we can infer in this case. Okay, so on this ground, because we have observed that if there is swabhava pratibandha, if there is existential dependence, then only a province would be able to provide us ground to infer. Only in that case we can infer taking the province. So there are three kinds of hetu on this ground, because these three are non-apprehension, essence and effect. So essence and effect can be understood very easily, because there are two types on which there is a possibility of existential dependence, but this non-apprehension is also coming in that way. So the three provinces are different by virtue of what they establish. This is to say, they establish different things. They are not capable of establishing the same things. Their establishing points are different. So a provendum may either be affirmative or negative. So it is either would be vidhi or pratishedha. So vidhi and pratishedha, affirmative and negative. So if there is an affirmative provendum, then that affirmative provendum can be established only by swabhava hetu or karya hetu. So there are these two which can affirm, which can establish an object, and pratishedh is possible through this third kind of hetu, that is anupalabdhi. So an affirmative provendum can be of two kinds, and it may be either non-identical with the province or identical with that. So if it is non-identical, it must be the cause of that, and if it is identical, then it is swabhava hetu, tadatmya is possible there. And negative is anupalabdhi kind, anupalabdhi province establishes the negative facts. So these are three kinds of hetu in Buddhism. So first we will discuss anupalabdhi hetu, non-apprehension as province. So non-apprehension of the object to be negated serves to establish its negation. So pratishedhya and pratishedha. So actually example is given here. We can infer the absence of pot in a particular locus from the non-apprehension of the pot here. Suppose we are inferring that there is no pot on the table. So in this case we would say that there is no pot on the table because it is not perceived, it is not grasped here. We are not able to perceive it. It means there is no pot on the table. Given the certain conditions, all conditions are available, and in that case we are not able to perceive the pot. It means there is no pot at all. So this is the question here. What is this kind of non-apprehension? Dharmakirti answers that only non-apprehension of an object which is perceptible, and there are if an object is non-perceptible, then you cannot establish the absence of that object through this inference, this kind of inference. So it is called Drishyanupalabdhi. Drishya means perceptible, Anupalabdhi non-apprehension. So non-apprehension of perceptible. This is one hetu. Perceptibility. So the upshot is that the absence of an object can be inferred from its non-apprehension only if all the conditions contributing towards its perception are available, are present, and if any one of them missing, then you cannot infer. So if all the conditions are fulfilled and only in that case that thing is not cognized, there is a non-apprehension of that object, then you can conclude, you can infer that there is no pot at all, there is not such object at all. So it is necessarily perceived. This is the nature of that object that is perceived. So there the nature of that object should be that it must be perceptible. Secondly, all other pratyantar, karanantar sakalya. Dharmakirti uses the term karanantar sakalya. So all those karanas, all those causes should be present there. There must be the collection of all those causes. In that case, if that thing is not perceived, then only we can say that this is Drishyanupalabdhi. So this is Anupalabdhi Hetu. So it may again be pointed out that non-apprehension can lead to a valid cognition only in the context of present experiences or in the context of past experiences of which we have a vivid memory. And if it is not the case, we cannot know through inference. So non-apprehension in the context of future experience is doubtful, and therefore it cannot lead to a valid cognition. So if there are three time frames, past, present and future, so past, present are somehow related to this Anupalabdhi Hetu, and future is no certain, therefore we cannot know something in future through this Anupalabdhi Hetu. And these two, the first Swabhava Hetu and Karya Hetu, we are turning to now Swabhava Hetu. So Swabhava Hetu, essence of the province it is called. So a province which is the essence of the probandum is known as the essence province, Swabhava Hetu. We may ask, what would be the nature of the province which is the essence of the probandum? So Dharmakirti answers, a province is the essence of a probandum if the latter exists only by the virtue of the existence of the province. This is to say, if I quote Dharmakirti's line, Swabhavaha swasatta matra bhavini hetuhu. Swabhav is that hetu which is only being present, it will be there. Swasatta matra bhavini. Existence of that proves the existence of others. This is the case of Swabhava Hetu. So existence of being Shinshapa, it is necessarily be a tree. So if this is Shinshapa, then it must be a tree. So this is the Swabhava Hetu. So here this stands for the inferential subject when we say this is a tree. And here treeness, vrikshatva, is for the probandum, and the property of being Shinshapa for the province. So property of being Shinshapa is province, and property of being vriksha, being tree, is probandum. Because Shinshapa is essentially a tree, and therefore its existence is always pervaded by treeness. Whenever there is a property of being Shinshapa, there must be property of being a tree. That is why treeness as the pervader can be inferred from the property of being Shinshapa, which is, as said earlier, the pervaded here. Second Hetu, Karya Hetu. We have discussed Anupalabdhi and Swabhava, and now this is turn to explain Karya Hetu, effect as province. So that two objects are caused related in is determined by the apprehension of the presence of the cause wherever an effect is present, as well as non-apprehension of the effect prior to its production, and of the effect when its cause is non-apprehended. A cause is present wherever an effect is present. So we can say that whenever there is a cause, there must be an effect. Therefore, from the presence of an effect, we can infer the presence of cause essentially, because the effect is essentially dependent for its existence upon probandum. Without probandum, it cannot come into existence. So the example is that there must be fire in the place in the mountain because there is smoke. Here smoke is the effect of fire, and therefore smoke is called an effect probans, karya hetu. So karya hetu is also able to prove that the probandum. Anupalabdhi hetu as probans, as we have discussed earlier also, this Anupalabdhi hetu, Dharmakirti says that only non-apprehension of the perceptible thing, this is to say drishya anupalabdhi. Drishya means perceptible, anupalabdhi means non-apprehension or non-cognition, can serve to establish a negation, because such non-apprehension is impossible if the object to be negated is present. So only if the object is negated, is not present there, you can say that there is no pot because it is not perceived. Upalabdhi lakshana praptasya anupalabdhe. Being, however, all the conditions are fulfilled, but the object is not perceived, you can say, you can utter in this way only if this is the case. Therefore, Dharmakirti aids that non-apprehension of the imperceptible adrishya anupalabdhi. This is a adrishya anupalabdhi, non-apprehension of, non-cognition of the object which is by nature non-perceptible, imperceptible, cannot serve to establish a negative fact, negation, because such non-apprehension is possible even if the object not apprehended and present there. Therefore, in that case only drishya anupalabdhi can be taken as probans, not adrishya anupalabdhi. So these are three hetus. So this classification of, because Swabhav hetu has no classification at all, Karya hetu has also not any classification at all, because these are only one. Swabhav hetu has no other classes, but non-apprehension has many classifications. There are many subclasses. Different kinds of non-apprehensions can play the role of probans. Therefore, in different texts, they are explained different way, various ways. Buddhist logicians are not unanimous about the number of different kinds of non-apprehension. Dharmakirti in his three different texts approves of three different classifications of non-apprehension. So this is very strange to note that in Hetu Bindu he speaks of three kinds of non-apprehension. In Pramanavartik he says that there are 4 kinds of non-apprehension, and in Nyaya Bindu Tika, Nyaya Bindu, Dharmakirti admits 11 kinds of non-apprehension. These 3 texts are written by Dharmakirti himself. Therefore, it is very strange to note that in Hetu Bindu he is saying that there are only 3 kinds of non-apprehension, and in Pramanavartik he says that there are 4 kinds of non-apprehension, and in Nyaya Bindu he accepts 11 kinds of non-apprehension. And it seems to me that he is making these points only because in Nyaya Bindu he wrote only to explain the process of inference and the process of perception. So he takes it very clearly, very seriously, and he explains it in detail. And in other texts, in Pramanavartika and in Hetu Bindu, he is not explaining those concepts in detail. Therefore, he has left, but it should not be understood that he left actually. But we can observe very clearly that in Hetu Bindu's three kinds of non-apprehension. All those kinds of non-apprehensions could be understood, could be included, and this is the same case with Pramanavartika's four kinds of non-apprehension. Mokshakar Gupta in his Tarka Bhasha, who also wrote a commentary on Pramanavartik named Alankara Bhashya, Vartika Alankar. So he admits that there are 16 forms of non-apprehension. So I think it would be better if we explain here only those 11 kinds of non-apprehension which are discussed in Dharmakirti's Nyaya Bindu, and that formulation we will follow here for the better understanding of this classification. So these are classifications of non-apprehension by Dharmakirti according to Nyaya Bindu Prakaran. So first one is Swabhavanupalabdhi. So we know, we can understand very easily that essence is a kind of Hetu, and because essence is a kind of Hetu, so if there is Anupalabdhi of essence, then we can infer the negation of that. So non-apprehension of the essence of what is to be negated. So if the essence of probandum is not perceived, not grasped, not apprehended, then we can infer that the probandum is not there. The absence of probandum we can infer. So here, non-apprehension of perceptible smoke leads to the knowledge of the absence of smoke, because smoke is always perceptible. So this is the nature of smoke, that it will be perceptible. So if there is no apprehension of the perceptible smoke, it leads to the conclusion that there is no smoke at all. So this is called Swabhava Nupalabdhi, because this is the nature of smoke, that if there is a smoke, that will be perceived given certain conditions. Those conditions are fulfilled. Secondly, that is Karyanupalabdhi. So non-apprehension of the effect of what is to be negated. So the example is here that from the non-apprehension of smoke, which is the effect Hetu, because smoke is caused by fire. So the absence of its cause, namely the fire which will definitely produce smoke, can be inferred. So here one point we must note, that this Karyanupalabdhi, smoke is not caused essence only by the fire, because if there is a fire, it will necessarily not lead to the production of smoke. So what is causing the smoke? And it is said that smoke is caused by the conjunction of wet fuel. So conjunction of wet fuel with fire is the sufficient cause. So here it must be noted, when we infer the absence of cause from Karyanupalabdhi, so that the absence of sufficient cause is inferred. So this is Karyanupalabdhi. Thirdly, Vyāpakanupalabdhi. So non-apprehension of the pervader of the object to be negated. So if Vyāpak is Anupalabdhi, Vyāpak is not apprehended, so we can observe that property of being Sinsapa is always pervaded by the property of being the tree. So if this is perceived that this is not a tree, then it is certain that it would not be a Sinshapa. So if something is not tree, that cannot be a Sinshapa at all. So from Vyāpakanupalabdhi we can infer, and this would be the case of the example of Vyāpakanupalabdhi. So if it is perceived, it is cognized that this is not a tree at all, so the conclusion would be very well valid that if it is not a tree, it would not be a Sinshapa. So this is Vyāpakanupalabdhi. And then there is a Swabhava Viruddhopalabdhi. Swabhava Viruddhopalabdhi, apprehension of that which is incompatible with the object which is to be denied. Swabhava Viruddha. So which is opposite, which is contradictory, incompatible with the essence of that. So for example here, from the apprehension of fire at a particular place, the absence of a sensation of cold in that place may be inferred, because this would be Swabhava Viruddha. Cold, the sensation of cold is taken to be the case, and the absence of sensation of cold is inferred here. And here we can see, we can observe that sensation of cold is incompatible with fire. So this would be Swabhava Viruddha. Swabhava Viruddha is fire, and that fire is apprehended here. Therefore, so we can observe from this these explanations that this Anuplabdhi not always Anuplabdhi, but many times it is Upalabdhi, because here Swabhava Viruddhopalabdhi is taken as Anupalabdhi Hetu. So non-apprehension is not always non-apprehension, but it is sometimes apprehension of that which is incompatible with the object which is to be denied. So here the sensation of cold is denied, and fire is incompatible with the sensation of cold. So fire is perceived here, apprehended here. Therefore, we can very well infer that there is no sensation of cold. Fifth one is that Viruddha Karyopalabdhi. So Viruddha Karyopalabdhi, when there is an effect is Upalabdhi. This is also Upalabdhi, not completely Anupalabdhi. Upalabdhi, apprehension. It is apprehension of the effect of that which is incompatible with that which is to be negated, apprehended. So the example here can be said that the absence of the sensation of cold may be inferred from the apprehension of smoke. So in last case, from the apprehension of fire, the absence of the sensation of cold was inferred, and in this case we are inferring it, the absence of sensation of cold, from the apprehension of smoke. And we know that smoke is caused by fire. So smoke is caused by fire, therefore it would be Viruddha Karyopalabdhi, and this, from this Viruddha Karyopalabdhi we are very well able to infer the absence of sensation of cold. Sixth one is Viruddha Vyāptopalabdhi. It means apprehension of the characteristic which is pervaded by the contradictory of that which is to be negated. So the example is here the property of being destroyed by some other cause. So it is called Hettvantara Pekshanatva. So is pervaded by uncertainty. Or certain uncertainty means adhruva bhavitva, or of destructibility, vinashitva. So whatever is destructible, that is uncertain. It is very simple that whatever is destructible, that is not certain. So it can be destroyed at any moment, therefore it is uncertain. So this is actually this is the pervader, and this is Viruddha Vyāptopalabdhi. Viruddha Vyāptopalabdhi, here whatever has the above property can be indestructible. Therefore, from the apprehension of that property in a particular locus, the absence of the contradictory of uncertainty of destructibility, namely the absence of the certainty of destructibility, can be inferred. So next one is, so this is very simple, Karya Viruddha Palabdhi, when apprehension of that which is incompatible with the effect of that which is to be negated. From the apprehension of fire in a particular locus, the absence of efficient causes of cold can be inferred. So here Karya Viruddhopalabdhi, the effect of fire is incompatible with the sensation of cold. So from this apprehension we can infer that if there is no fire, if there is Karya Viruddhopalabdhi, from the apprehension of fire, if we perceive, we cognize the fire in a particular place, then there would not be cold at all. So the absence of efficient cause of cold, actually the absence of cold is one thing, and the absence of the efficient causes of cold is something different. So first it was discussed that we can infer the absence of sensation of cold. Now it is inferred that we can infer the cause of the absence of the cause of cold, efficient cause of cold. So this can also be done. So this would be karya viruddhopalabdhi. And eighth one is vyāpaka viruddhopalabdhi. Vyāpaka viruddhopalabdhi. So what is vyāpaka viruddha? What is incompatible with vyapak? If that is apprehended, then it can play the role of hetu, in role of province to infer. So apprehension of that which is incompatible with the pervader of that which is to be negated. Example is here, from the apprehension of fire, the absence of the sensation of snow can be inferred. So here the absence of the sensation of snow is inferred here. So if there is a cold, much cold, then there will be snow. So here we perceive fire. So if vyāpaka viruddha, it is vyāpaka viruddha. Fire, the apprehension of fire is actually a vyāpaka viruddhopalabdhi. So snow is vyapak of cold, and fire is incompatible with snow. Therefore the apprehension of fire would be vyāpaka viruddhopalabdhi. So from the apprehension of fire, the absence of sensation of snow can be inferred, and the sensation of snow is pervaded by the sensation of cold, because wherever there is a sensation of snow, there is a sensation of cold, and the sensation of cold is incompatible with fire. So fire is vyāpaka viruddha, and that fire is apprehended. Therefore the apprehension of fire would be vyāpaka viruddhopalabdhi, and that will serve the purpose here for the inference. And ninth one is karananupalabdhi, non-apprehension of the cause of that which is to be negated. Non-apprehension of the cause, karana anupalabdhi, when the cause is not apprehended. And it is very simple here. From the non-apprehension of fire, the absence of smoke can be inferred. So here it must be remembered that when we say that karananupalabdhi leads to the negation of effect, it is not karan is sufficient cause, but any one cause if absent, it would not be there sufficient cause there. So any absence of any cause is able to provide the ground for the inference of absence of effect. So from this, the non-apprehension of fire, we can infer the absence of smoke, and it is very easy. 10th one is karana viruddhopalabdhi. Karana viruddhopalabdhi, what is incompatible with karana, with cause? If that is apprehended, then it can play the role of province. So apprehension of that which is incompatible with the cause of that which is to be negated. So the example here, it may be inferred that there is an absence of any person having a special type of goose flesh at a particular place, because smoke is apprehended in that place. That is goose flesh caused by cold, different from that caused by fear or awe. So here this goose flesh is actually providing the ground, karana viruddhopalabdhi. This is karana viruddha. But because smoke is apprehended in the place, so if there is a smoke, there must be fire, and if fire is there, there should not be goose flesh. So it is a karana viruddhopalabdhi, and there are some things which are incompatible with the cause of that. So smoke is karana viruddhopalabdhi here. Smoke is apprehended in that place. And in this case, if we are saying that an absence of any person having a special type of goose flesh is inferred, so it is incompatible with this one. And 11th one is Karana Viruddha Karyopalabdhi. Karana Viruddha Karyopalabdhi. It means apprehension of the effect that is incompatible with the cause of that which is to be negated. So the example is here, from the apprehension of smoke at a certain place, it may be inferred that there is in that place the absence of any person with a particular type of goose flesh which is the result of cold. So it can be inferred. So these are 11 kinds of anuplabdhis which can serve which can play the role of province in case of anuplabdhi hetu. So these are 11 kinds of swabhava anuplabdhi. So actually we can say that the formulations of these non-apprehensions differ. They are to be included within swabhava anuplabdhi. All these are swabhava anuplabdhi, because these all are in some sense they all are, whatever is apprehended actually it is, if it is opposite to it is incompatible with the nature, then also it is swabhava anuplabdhi. It proves that swabhava is not there, swabhava is not apprehended at all. It is a non-apprehension of the nature. So which is direct non-apprehension of the existence of something. Further, the other 10 formulations of non-apprehensions do not directly express a negation of ascribed visibility. They nevertheless express an affirmation or a negation of something, and this invariably leads to simple negation of the hypothetically visible. They are therefore included within swabhava anuplabdhi, not directly but indirectly or mediately. This is called by paramparaya. So the point is that all these are included in swabhava anuplabdhi. So anuplabdhi of swabhava. So one more discussion in this regard, and this is done in Buddhist Jaina tradition, whether to accept antarvyapti or bahirvyapti. And this discussion is also very interesting in Buddhism also, because we can say there are two kinds of inferences, and those two kinds of inferences cannot be settled without taking into consideration this case of antarvyapti. So what is the idea of antarvyapti and bahirvyapti? So bahirvyapti means when you are inferring, we have learnt that there is a paksha, there is a sapaksha, and there is a vipaksha. So can we conceive a case of inference where there is no sapaksha at all, where there is no vipaksha at all? So this can be done here, and if everything is included in paksha, what will be the case? Are we entitled to infer? Because there will be a difficulty in it. And here in Jaina philosophy there is a point is raised that they say that utpatti vyaya dravya yuktam sat, utpatti vyaya dravya yuktam sat, this is their definition of sat. So everything whatever is existent, that is utpatti vyaya and dravya yukta. So utpatti means production, it is produced, it is an effect, and at the same time it is destroyed, and vyaya means destroyed, and dravya means eternity. So it is eternal. So their point is that everything is endowed with these three properties. So if everything is endowed with these three properties, then how could you prove this? What is the ground to prove it? You have to prove it through inferential process, and whenever you are going to prove it through inferential process, there will be a need of a drishtanta, there will be a need of sapaksha, because if there is no sapaksha, because as we have discussed that there are three characteristics in order to make one province a good province in able to be to infer. So those are paksha sattva, sapaksha sattva and vipaksha sattva, presence in paksha and presence in sapaksha and absence in vipaksha. So here in this case there is only paksha, not sapaksha and not vipaksha. So it will be very difficult to support Vyāpti. Vyāpti means when we have the idea, when we grasp Vyāpti, understand Vyāpti or grasp Vyāpti, establish Vyāpti different from paksha, some other places different from paksha, that is called Vyāpti. And the idea of Vyāpti is that when we establish Vyāpti only at the same place where we are inferring. So if everything is sat and everything is utpatti vyaya dravya yukta, produced and as well as existent and also destructible, so in that case how will you prove it? How there will be a Vyāpti between existence, between satta, between padartha, the being, because everything is included in it, so there will be a great difficulty in it. So Vyāpti case can be observed here when one is inferring fire in the mountain, and here you can say there is a fire in the mountain as there is a fire in the kitchen. So in this case kitchen is excluded from paksha, therefore there will be the example, it will be example of Vyāpti. But if suppose all things are composed of many aspects, as it is said utpatti vyaya dravya yukta, because they have existence, this will be very difficult to point out anything which is not included in this inferential form, because everything, all things are included. So you have to support only internal Vyāpti, antar Vyāpti, in order to accept that this inference is valid one, sound one. So Vadideva Suri's view is that internal concomitance, antar Vyāpti, is the basic point, and in every, not only, it is only because of internal concomitance that the province is capable or incapable of establishing the probandum. External concomitance is unnecessary. To explain, external concomitance cannot serve to prove the probandum unless preceded or supported by internal concomitance. This shows that in all cases where the province is capable of proving the probandum, it is internal concomitance which enables it to do. External concomitance is redundant here. And again, such concomitance is futile even in cases where the province is incompatible of proving the probandum due to internal concomitance. So we can take another example here, that is my son, because such a voice is not to be heard anywhere else. Here the province, such a voice is not to be heard anywhere else, leads to the probandum, the property of being my son. And thou, here there is no corroborative example showing invariable concomitance between the province and the probandum. External concomitance therefore is not needed to establish, because here it is not possible at all to show external concomitance. This is my son and there is only one son which is mine. So in this case the example, the Vyāpti is there only at the same place, so it would be the case of internal concomitance, antar Vyāpti, and this antar Vyāpti is sufficient to prove its sadhya. So this is Vadideva Suri's position. So we have to make certain issues here, that whether it is necessary that in internal concomitance be there in every inference. Vadideva's claim is like this. So inference in which everything is the inferential subject, Here the Jainas would say that the Vyāpti relation between existence and being composed of many aspects follows from the very definition of Sat, and which has origination, destruction and sustenance. Utpada Vyaya Dravya Yuktam Sat. So inference in which the probandum is the unique property of the subject, in that case only this is possible. So inference based on identity between probans and probandum, there will be necessarily a need of internal concomitance. In all other cases it would not be a necessary point. This must be a tree because it is sensipa, is based on the definitional knowledge, that is sensipa by definition is a kind of tree. Here one cannot show any external concomitance, only internal concomitance is possible. Here it is observed. So there are certain issues where only internal concomitance can lead to the conclusion. So dear students, to sum up this point, in this module we have learned the kinds of Vyāpti and kinds of inference, Swarthanuman and Pararthanuman, and there are three kinds of Hetus: Swabhava Hetu, Karya Hetu and Anupalabdhi Hetu. And also we have learned that why there are only these three kinds of Hetus, why all other kinds of Hetus are not possible, are not accepted, because there is need of existential dependence and it is possible only in these cases. Therefore there are only these three kinds of Hetus which can provide us ground to infer. So these all points are discussed, and if you are willing to know more, you may consult the Learn More section and the e-text. Thank you very much.